Today's topic is particularly appropriate because I'm feeling a little bit run down. That does happen from time to time. But as a follow-up to my training considerations for over 40, I want to talk more specifically on fatigue management. That's right, we're going to talk about this guy again because it's important. In fact, really, you could think of fatigue management as kind of the lattice work, the tie that binds everything else together, your nutrition, your training, and of course your recovery. But fatigue management isn't necessarily just sleep. There's a lot more that goes into it. So let me explain. So first of all, what is fatigue? Well, prosaically, it's the inability to perform at your previous level. Simply put, you're not 100%. Well, what causes fatigue? Stress, overwork, illness, and mind you, fatigue can be physical and mental as well. And fatigue isn't necessarily all de-stress. Eustress induces fatigue as well. What you got to remember, folks, is that when it comes to stressors, whether it's good stress from exercise, or stress from illness, or stress from work, life, relationships, finances, whatever, it all goes in the same cup, right? And this is why fatigue management strategies, particularly for the athlete, are so crucial, because you need to take into account your training parameters, your volume, your intensity, your frequency, and the specificity of your training to accommodate the additional stressors from work, life, etc. Now, all that's fine and good, but the purpose of this channel is to improve your health and fitness. So when I talk about fatigue management, I want to talk about it in the context of your fitness and the sustainability of your healthy lifestyle. So knowing that everyone's work, life, financial, relationship situation is different, I'm not going to address any of that stuff. That's going to be up to you on your end to manage. What I will address, however, are the training variables. First, we got to talk about specifically why you're fatigued from the training. Is it too much training too soon? Or is it fatigue from cumulative aggregate training volume over a meaningful period of time? Now, obviously, you can address both these things with just better sleep hygiene, right? More sleep and more time pretty much heals anything you can do to yourself in the gym, short of like a compound fracture or a full evulsion. So when it comes to just depleted energy reserves and or psychological fatigue, generally speaking, your go-to biggest lever is just prioritize time for better sleep. And there's a variety of strategies and supplementations to do so. First and foremost, dark, quiet, temperature, and I personally recommend magnesium before bed. But another thing that I personally like to do to kind of kill two birds with one stone, both the physical and psychological aspects of fatigue management, is just take some easier days. Some people refer to this as active recovery. I'm probably doing a little bit more than what would classically be considered active recovery, but here's the thing. It's very easy, especially once you get in the groove of training, to have it in your mind, okay, I do push-pull leg split. So that means like Monday I have to press, and Wednesday I have to pull, and Friday I have to do squats, right? Well, you don't necessarily have to, because you might have a great pressing day on Monday, but then Wednesday rolls around, and between work and family stuff and whatever else happens in your life, you're too gassed to have a decent pulling day. So part of fatigue management is allowing yourself some flexibility in terms of adhering to the general scheme of maneuver of your program in order to keep moving forward, but don't necessarily feel the need to take 2 steps forward every time you go into the gym. Sometimes the biggest part of fatigue management is instead of taking 2 steps forward, you take half a step forward, or even no steps forward. You just don't take any steps back is the thing. In this era of 8-week, 12-week microwave popcorn programs, and the only thing that matters is progressive overload, and you have to do either more weight or more reps every workout, otherwise you won't make any gains. It's just simply not the case, folks. That's a quick way to get yourself burnt out and or injured. What matters is the total aggregate volume of training you do and the length of time you can string that along. And I've heard every older and great athlete say something to that effect. Whether it's some of my old command sergeant majors or guys like Eddie Cohn, they say the same thing. It's a matter of how many productive training sessions you can string together without getting burnt out or injured that's going to determine the measure of athlete you become, with, of course, your genetics and, natural ability. This all came to mind prior to this training session because I knew going into it there was no way I was going to make a full 30K on the bike, even though that is currently my new standard. And even after 28 years of doing this, I still had to do all these mental gymnastics to convince myself rationally that the better move is just to back off a little bit today so I can do this all again tomorrow. The all or nothing approach, folks, is simply just not sustainable. So my personal recommendation when it comes to fatigue management in terms of training, especially if you're like me and you aren't psychologically amenable to complete days off, determine through whatever means for yourself a minimum acceptable standard where you know you're not taking any steps backwards. String together a couple days of those with a little bit more food and a little bit more sleep. And I've found that almost always after a couple days of that, within the week, your fatigue kind of ameliorates itself and you're back on the gains train without losing any ground or skipping a beat. While the source of your fatigue can come from a variety of sources, not all of them you can control, and it all goes in the same bucket. So, instead of interrupting your momentum by having to quit or worse, getting injured, there's nothing wrong with taking a few back-off days where you can still grease the wheel while you extend that recovery curve to give your body some extra time to catch up. Having said all this, I want to be absolutely clear too. If you are injured or you need to, there's absolutely nothing wrong with just taking some good old-fashioned R&R. Take some time off. When I say consistency is a superpower, I'm not talking about a training block. I'm talking about years, decades, a lifetime of training. I don't make this content with the intention to discourage you from taking time off. I'm just trying to give you some more tools to help you stay in the fight. Thanks for watching.